Hey, I'm Annabelle, nurse, birth doula, and mama, and I'm here to build your confidence in birth and motherhood. Today we're talking about the Medela Pump and Style Advanced Breast Pump, which should be covered by your insurance company. If not, it's a very moderately priced breast pump that I recommend. I had beautiful experiences breastfeeding both of my sons, but sometimes you just gotta pump. And so I recommend for mamas that if you're still pregnant, start looking for some breast pumps, deciding the pros and cons, which ones will work for you, and then having that breast pump ready by due date. It's not so that you can start breast pumping by due date if you don't have to, but if there is a instance where your baby goes to the NICU or just can't come to breast right away and you want to make sure that your milk supply comes in, a breast pump is the way to go. Now, the hospital can provide you with a breast pump, but I love it when moms just are comfortable with their breast pumps and they feel like they have something that belongs to them that they're using for something that's very intimate and personal. If you don't have any difficulties right away bringing baby to breast and you want to exclusively breastfeed, then when should you start pumping and stashing away that milk? Maybe before the 6-week mark, and I will tell you why. So before you get to 6 weeks, your body is trying to determine how much milk your baby is actually needing every day. And so if you want to feed your baby and then you want to store away some breast milk for when you go back to work or when you want to have a date night or whatever the instance, that way your body says, okay, I'm going to produce enough for baby to eat and be filled, but then I'm going to produce a little bit more because she's pumping and she wants to store it away. So before that 6-week mark, some moms ask what time of day should they start breast pumping, and it really is up to you, whatever works best for your schedule. But my personal experience, as well as a lot of other moms, is that first thing in the morning you get up and your breasts are heavy and full. And so for me personally, I would get up and pump because I didn't want my son to feel like he had a fire hydrant coming at him because there was so much milk and he was choking and it was just too much milk. So I would get up in the morning, pump, fill 2 bottles, put it away in the freezer, wait about 30 minutes, then get my son up and let him eat. That way my body had some time to kind of replenish some of that, even though there was probably still some in there, and then he would be satisfied when he ate. So now let's talk about this specific pump, some pros and cons, why I do recommend it, and then I'm gonna show you how to put it all together. It's very simple, but there's a lot of parts. So this pump is recommended by physicians. That is a pro. But let's talk about some others and why I like it. This pump is very efficient. It's a very strong motor, and so it definitely pulls that milk out quickly. I can sit down and pump for maybe 10 minutes with both sides, and I've got plenty of milk to store away. So it's very efficient, very quick. So if you want a pump that doesn't mess around and take up all of your time, this is definitely a good pump. Another pro is that it is a very compact breast pump. Now, a lot of people think, no, it's not. I feel like this big tote bag is just so much and it's ugly. But let me tell you, the pump is down in the bag and this little flap comes down to show you the front of the pump, but it is Velcroed down in its own little case. But then there's a lot of extra space where all of this fits in. And I love that because I'm very organized and it just all stores together, close it up, and I can carry it anywhere. So I love that. So I also love that it comes with this storage space as well as a freezer pack, so that if I'm out at work or wherever and I have to pump and then I have to drive home, I can take my milk out of the fridge from work, put it in this pack, put the freezer pack in it, and take it home and not have to worry about the milk spoiling. Now, breast milk doesn't have to go straight into the fridge or the freezer to be okay, but I personally just don't like to risk it. I want to make sure that I kept it cool before I get home and then can put it in the freezer. So I love that. So the pros, that it's very efficient, it is very organized and compact, and it has smart storage space. Now, some cons that some people think are cons, I personally don't really see them as a problem, but it's also something that maybe Medela could work on. This pump, because it's very efficient, has to be plugged into a power source. So it does come with this power cord. And so whenever you sit down to pump, you're gonna have to stay there. You can't get up and walk around here per se. And so some people don't like that. They want to be able to do other stuff when they're pumping. Again, I usually sit down and pump when my children are napping or asleep, and I'm only going to be there for maybe 10, 15 minutes. I don't have a problem with it. And they do give you in your pack, when you buy it, a source to put batteries in, so that if you're on the road or if you don't have a power source, you can plug this in and use the battery. I love that. And then also, I personally bought a car charger, so I can plug this in the car into the ashtray and use it in the car, but that is a separate piece that you have to purchase. So that's a con, that you have to be plugged into a power source. Another con, it goes along with it being very efficient. This is a loud pump. It makes this like noise when you're pumping. So if you don't like that loud noise, if it's annoying to you, if you're trying to talk on the phone, that is something to consider, that it's not just completely quiet. It is kind of obnoxious. But again, I'm pumping 10 minutes. I know it's going to be loud. I don't really seem to care. Another con that people kind of complain about is that there are so many parts and they all come apart, and that's annoying to some people because trying to keep track of it all. Again, I love to be organized and I just keep it all inside of here in this little plastic container. And I love that it comes apart because then they really get clean. I don't have to worry about milk getting stuck down in one of the parts that didn't disassemble, and now it's like soured milk and I'm trying to put clean new milk in it. So I love that it comes apart. All of these parts can go inside the dishwasher, or you can hand wash them. Little parts like this, I have a little bristle brush and I just clean them all and then I lay them down on a bottle dryer. So lots of little parts, but I love that because I can get it really clean. But it is something to consider if you feel like you lose a lot of stuff, if you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, where did the valves go? I don't know where they went. Maybe another pump to consider. Now let's actually talk about this pump and everything that you get with this whole getup. You get the tote bag with the pump down inside that's Velcro down in there so it's not moving around. You get the storage pack with the freezer pack that goes inside. You get 4 bottles and 4 lids, so that if you don't pour the milk straight into a freezer bag, you can close them up, put them in the fridge, whatever you want to do so that you don't spill your milk. You get your 2 connector pieces. You get your 2 valves that connect to your 2 membranes, and that's what creates the suction. Then you get your 2 breast shields, and they come with a 24 millimeter breast shield. There are different sizes that you can buy. 24 is pretty standard, but you want to make sure that you have the right size. And the way that you know is that when you put it up to your breast and your nipple, and when you turn the suction on, you want to make sure that there is a little bit of room around your nipple. You don't want it to kind of like squeeze through and be touching all the sides, and you also don't want it to be too big where it pulls some of the breast tissue into the tunnel. So you want to make sure that there's just a little bit of room on both sides of your nipple. So like if this was my nipple, that would be too big. You'd want it a little bit, you'd want a little less space around your nipple. So if you don't know specifically if you really have the right size, you can talk to a lactation consultant, or if you have your breast pump, by the time due date comes, you could take your breast pump to the hospital with you, which I know kind of seems just not really convenient, because why do you need more stuff? But if you really want to know, you could even just take your shield maybe and talk to the lactation consultant that comes to your room, because they're gonna visit you anyways, and that way you don't have to make a separate drive to wherever they're at when you get home and start pumping. So you get your 2 shields, and then you get 2 sets of tubing, because the great thing about this pump is that you can pump both sides at the same time. You can get like a pumping bra where it attaches to your bottles, and then you can have hands free while you're pumping, or you can just hold them there, but your arms might get tired if you're pumping both at the same time. So that's everything that comes with this. Oh, and I didn't say you also get the power source and the battery power source. So that's everything that comes with this, as well as like an instruction manual. And that instruction manual actually has a lot of helpful stuff in it. Like if you get mastitis, it kind of tells you what it is and what to do, how to store your milk, what temperature, how long. I love that, because for first-time moms, if they don't know this stuff, it's like super easy right there. You can just keep it in your bag and take a look at it. So now let's put everything together, plug it into your pump, and put it on the right setting so that you can start storing away that breast milk. Always wash your hands before you put all of these parts together. And this all can go in the dishwasher, like I said, but you do want to sanitize once a day, which has to do with boiling water. And how to do that, it's all in the instruction manual. So let's go. So we are going to take the membrane and the valve, and you're going to put these together. This is what creates the suction. Then you're going to take your connector piece and connect the membrane to your connector piece. It just fits right on there. Don't push too tight because, like I said earlier, it is very difficult to take these off. I find that you can't really turn or pull. You have to like wiggle back and forth, and then it pops right off. If you try to just pull it off or turn it, no matter how strong you are, my husband's tried, it just doesn't work. So that wiggle back and forth movement is your saving grace. So once this is connected, you hook it up to your bottle, and then your shield goes, there's two sides that kind of look like which one do I use, but it is the smaller side that the shield connects to. All right, so let's connect the other one. And then your tubing. Now, if you are like me, still a smart person, but does some dumb stuff sometimes, or has dumb thoughts, I guess, I thought when I first saw this pump that this is where the milk went through. And the reason I thought that is because in the instruction manual, it talks about cleaning this. And I thought when they told me I had to clean it, I'm gonna have to buy new tubing all the time because there is no way I can get that tubing clean. If breast milk is going all through there, it's gonna dry and be nasty. This tubing connects to the motor, and the motor is what creates the suction of your breast. That breast milk never goes into this tubing. It goes straight into the bottle. So if you're like me and you have crazy thoughts sometimes and have to figure weird things out, that is just a little hint that I'm gonna tell you. The breast milk does not go through this tubing. It goes straight into the bottle. Only air goes through here. So your tubing, you're gonna connect the hard plastic piece to the bottle. There's like a little hole and it just fits right in there. Do the same to this one. And then we're gonna connect to this pump. So like I said, it zips up like this. You just unzip it and your motor is right there. So let's connect the soft piece of tubing to the motor. Now, there is a little plastic, a rubber piece here where if you only want to pump on one side, you just have to close the opposite valve so that you don't have air blowing out of there because the pump thinks you should have two pieces of tubing hooked in. But I usually almost always pump both sides, so I just keep it in the middle. And so we're gonna plug in both pieces of tubing. And then you would plug in your power source. Plug in here. So I do recommend that when you go to turn it on, you've got the bottles with the shields up to your nipples and you are ready to pump. You turn it on the lowest setting and then you just kind of gradually turn up the setting until you get to the point where it's painful. So when it becomes painful, then from that point, turn it down a little bit, and that should be a good setting for you. I usually keep it about medium. That is comfortable for me. And so you just kind of have to decide what works for you. So when your baby comes to breast, there are two phases of that breastfeeding. There's a stimulation, and then there's the actual letdown. The letdown is when that back, that hind milk, which is the rich, fatty milk, comes in and it comes down to your nipple. It's a very warm, tingling, heavy sensation, especially when you first start breastfeeding. So when your baby first comes to breast and starts sucking, baby sucks really fast, stimulating your breast. And baby's mostly just getting water. I mean, it's still breast milk, but it's more watery than it is fat. So think about it like baby's hydrating before he or she eats his big, heavy meal. And so that stimulation phase is really fast. Baby's just sucking quickly and not as just like not as heavy of a, not as strong of a suck. And so this pump stimulates a baby. And so you want to stimulate that nipple and the breast very quickly, just like a baby does. And so this pump does that. And so at first it's just a very like fast sucking, and then it moves into the very slow, methodical pumping. And it will do it automatically. When you first turn on the pump, it will start fast and then it will move into the slower sucking. But if your letdown is a different timing than what this pump is programmed to, there's a button for the letdown. So if you put the pump up to your breast, the shield up to your breast, and you start the machine, and you notice, okay, like I'm getting really strong flow, I felt my letdown, and the milk looks much thicker now, you can go ahead and press the button that switches the pump over to that letdown, where it's much slower and more methodical. Like I said, if you don't push that button, the pump will do it on its own, which is super nice, because if you're pumping and you're like doing something else or thinking about something else, it's gonna move into that phase for you. But if you wanna go ahead and press that button and move on into that slower sucking, then go ahead. So after I pump, which like I said, it's usually maybe 10, 15 minutes, I will have usually 3/4 full of each bottle. Now my left breast, usually it's less milk than my right, which is completely normal. Each breast is gonna kind of do their own thing, especially based on which side baby prefers, if baby sucks on one side more than the other. But after I fill up my bottles and I turn off the machine first usually, because if you try to yank these off, it doesn't feel very good. So turn off your machine and then you remove. And sometimes milk drips, so I usually have I'll tuck a towel into my shorts or whatever, so that when I take the pump off, I don't have milk all over my clothes. But anyways, so milk drips, I have my bottles, I set them down, the pump is off, and then you can disconnect here first. So I have my milk, take off the tops. I can either put the caps on, put it in the fridge, but I almost always will pour these into freezer bags. And once I pour them into the freezer bags, I label the name of the baby, I put how much milk was in here, and then I put the date and the time. And then I lay them flat in my freezer, close the door, and they're set. Now I will say that breast milk can keep in the freezer for about 6 months. And that's amazing, but this is amazing about our bodies. Your breast milk, now that your baby is eating at 2 months old, is going to change. When baby's 6 months old, baby's gonna need some different things in that breast milk, and your body is going to acclimate and change to baby's needs. And so at 6 months, if you're going off to work and you pull out of the freezer the milk from 1 month, maybe baby's not getting exactly what he or she needs at that time. So my recommendation is, yes, have a storage, but make sure that you're using that older milk as quickly as possible so that baby is eating milk that's as close to his or her age as possible. And that's just gonna be best for baby. Then when you get home and you breastfeed, the milks are gonna be pretty similar. So that is the Medela Pump and Style Advanced pump that I have personally used. I do recommend it. It's a great pump. Some pros, some cons. Definitely kind of weigh those for yourself. Check out the link below to see if your insurance company will provide this for you. If you do want to breastfeed, or if you're breastfeeding now and there's some obstacles that you're really just bumping into, I have another video for breastfeeding moms that really just want to overcome some of those obstacles, because breastfeeding is a beautiful experience, but sometimes, and a lot of times, we moms just bump into some obstacles, and I want to help you out with that. So check out that video. I'm going to link it in the YouTube cards above. Make sure you subscribe to this channel and give me a thumbs up if this was helpful for you. I'll see you in the next video.